Although you might not realize it, LEGO is always trying to upgrade their LEGO pieces to either make them stronger or more aesthetically pleasing, which is subjective. So today we're going to be taking a look at 42 different LEGO pieces that got revamped. Starting with this dynamite piece, which didn't always look like this, because in 1996 it looked pretty flat because it was simply a printed tile. Next we got the compass piece, which looks like this, but back in 1992 they were much bigger and actually worked. But by the 2000s they had been discontinued because they had magnets inside which kids could swallow, resulting in internal tearing of tissue. And then there's the faucet piece, which looks pretty good today, but in the 70s they were chrome coated, which made them look extremely realistic. If you had enlarged this piece 100 times, I would have believed it was real. Next up is the bow piece. No, not that one. Or that one. This one. Which got some small upgrades like this one or the compound bow, but none like the 2023 shooting bow that seems to work in the same way as the stud shooter. 10,000 likes and I'll buy the LEGO Friends set that has it. Next we got the backpack, which started out like this, then we got this variant and an upgraded one. But my favorite one is this one, which can open to fit about 2 plates worth of LEGO and some tools on the side, whereas the older one can only fit 1 tile that you can't even access. Unfortunately, it was discontinued, probably because of its size and the weak point when it's open. Normally they get upgraded, but sometimes they get downgraded, which was the case with the cannon piece, which worked by inserting a cylinder and then pulling back. But for some reason, the feature was removed in the US and Canada, which gave birth to the non-shooting cannon. But then, in 2002, they brought the shooting cannon back. Kinda weird. Next, the diving helmet, which first started out like this in 1996, but then in 2010, Atlantis introduced the updated version. Often used for astronauts. The only good thing about the old one was that the visor could open, but there was a big hole in the middle. The original Darksaber piece was originally just a 4-long bar attached to a lightsaber hilt, but then got updated to look more similar to the real thing. But some people complain that the Darksaber doesn't have a white outline, but doesn't feel very necessary since normal lightsabers don't even have the white outline. But it would be nice to have an updated hilt. The crossbow piece started out like this in 1990 and then got updated in 2015 to be a shooting crossbow. A year later, there was another crossbow made for Aaron from Nexonites that kinda worked similarly. Next we got the magnet pieces that were quite small, but since many kids were swallowing magnets, they decided to make them even larger to prevent it. Since if more than one magnet is swallowed, they can attract to each other and tear tissue. And then there are the 10 pieces, which were always made of this paper-like material, which is fragile, until they were replaced with the more sturdy and flexible vinyl. A lot of times LEGO revamps pieces to make them stronger, but sometimes they do it for a stylistic choice. One of those pieces being the octagonal canopy, which had a very squared off look, staying consistent with the other LEGO pieces. These parts were mainly used for submarines, but in the mid-2000s, curves started getting more popular, giving us the dome canopy, completely replacing the other one. Next we have the palm tree leaves, which were very simple yet effective. However, they were very prone to breaking. So LEGO discontinued the larger OG version and kept the small one, and also decided to revamp it with this newer leaf piece with a clip on the end. Only 60s kids will remember that the OG LEGO wheels had gray tires. However, they would yellow and harden over time, so in 1967 they changed the material, making them the black color we know today. Now we have this door piece that's obviously too small for a minifigure. Probably how Shaq feels when he's opening a door. So LEGO had to update it to fit a minifigure in, and I thought this door would fit the OG minifigure, but it doesn't. There are sets with both the minifigure and this door. Definitely a bad door idea. Next we have the space helmet that went from this to this. The original one was discontinued because the chin strap would often break, but after the LEGO movie, they brought it back and reinforced the chin strap. Then we have the Harry Potter wand pieces that were just the 4 long bars. When the theme returned in 2018, they created a better wand which would be reused as a chopstick. But in 2022, Monkey Kid introduced a dedicated part. The parts often get updated to add variation or sometimes to get rid of huge molds. Like this apple tree from 1995 that uses this oversized curved slope with printed apples. However, in 2024, it seems that the Animal Crossing theme has made an almost identical version, just with more parts and physical apples. Then we got the knife piece, which started out in chrome silver but then got updated in Ninjago to lose the chrome in favor of flat silver, because of course the chrome was guaranteed to chip off if placed in the minifigure's hand. Our next weapon got a slight texture update from smooth to textured grips, and then they had to downgrade it in 2022. Then we have the stud shooter, which started out like this, and then we got the awesome 6 stud shooter, and finally this bulky, more powerful design. And now let's continue on to bikes and scooters that got updated. Starting slow with the bike that was introduced in 1985 and practically had no changes except for the slight update in the back with the stud. Then in 2018 we got the mountain bike and a variant with a clip to accommodate the weak LEGO friends. Then there's the scooter, which started out like this, but then in 2014 we got this version that uses a bucket handle as a kickstand. And then we're on to motorcycles, which were brick built, and then they got their own mold in 1983. Then we got this update, then another vintage style motorcycle, a dirt bike, and the new default has become the speed bike. And then they introduced pullback motors, meaning that every single one of those molds that I just mentioned had to get updated to fit the chassis. We even got some new ones like the bathtub. Let's take a look at some basic LEGO minifigure parts that got revamped. Before the minifigure that we all know and love today, there was this guy with no arms and no face. But a minifigure that a lot of people forget got an update is the skeleton, which had these wobbly arms, but then in 2007 they gave the skeletons battle droid arms that look way too oversized. However, some skeletons kept the battle droid arms like the wither skeleton. And then Ninjago introduced these arms that are more to scale, and the arms have bars, meaning you can put more arms on them. You can also do the same thing with the older version. I also always wondered why this skeleton head got discontinued. Okay, that makes sense. LEGO is always trying to improve their parts, but sometimes I find that the older one is better. The LEGO monkey started with 4 minifigure arms, which gave it plenty of articulation. However, it was discontinued and replaced with this monkey that looks cute but doesn't have any articulation. Also from the pirate line is the parrot piece that was originally printed, but then it was replaced in favor of a dual molded marble parrot that loses the more detailed print. I do like that each pair is different because of the dual molded injection, but I would like a print also. And this take might be controversial, but I think that the OG Chewbacca was better. Although the printing and color is superior on the new one, the old head mold more accurately captured Chewie. The facial expression on the new one is really not selling it for me because of the inaccurate brown space around the eyes. Finding small little rods in LEGO wheels used to be the standard. They started out like this, with a metal rod that would be inserted into a brick. Then in 1969, the metal rod would go right through the plate or brick. If you own even a bit of old LEGO, these wheels might be familiar to you as they defined 30 years of LEGO. Now the tires would vary, from smooth to treaded, and we even got these round wheels for space rovers. But these tires have a few glaring flaws, such as rust that can form by moisture simply being present. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that kids used to own these pieces that I bought secondhand. And one of them decided to remove the metal bar. And if a kid swallows this, it can be very dangerous, so LEGO discontinued it in 1999. Meaning that the Grimace car was the last set to include them. Even LEGO Grimace is trying to kill people. And then the metal rod was replaced with pins. But you need a place to put those wheels. Yes, that's right. It's all about car chassis. Although you might think they started small, they didn't, because they started out at 6 studs wide. However, once minifigures started driving cars, the chassis went to 4 studs. And this one had a slight slope so that the minifigures could lay back. Then it would be slowly replaced with a simpler version with pegs that's still used today. Similarly, in 1996, this chassis was created with a little more space for the driver, but it stayed simple, which is also why this one is still used today in Speed Champion sets. In 2005, LEGO City introduced one of the most common chassis, and alongside this one, they also introduced a larger version for trucks. And in 2017, 6-stud cars would become the standard, and so they made a version that has extra studs. However, this chassis is very limiting, so it is not used very much. These curved dome pieces started out with these weird lines that kept a little bit of that blocky look that LEGO had back then. This seemed to be quite popular in the 90s when this piece was released, because we even got this weird blocky cone. But in the mid-2000s, aesthetics changed, and as I once said, curves got more popular. Then we got the large sail pieces, which I don't think we'll be seeing anymore because they bend so much and are already getting replaced in the Creator 3-in-1 pirate ship and the Creator 3-in-1 Viking boat. And then we got the treasure chests that got some minor structural updates, and then got a major upgrade with a flat top that's more accurate for the Minecraft sets, as before this they were using the old curved top. And you might want to subscribe, and I do lives, so maybe I'm live right now.